Beautiful day. It is Tuesday. Welcome to the channel. I'd like to welcome everybody that is watching today. I'm sharing something beautiful every day as I read what God has graced me to read and what He's given me over the years to be able to give back to you and bless you with this truth. All right, I'm going to continue with this article that I'm reading, and it is Firstborn from Among the Dead. Creation alone cannot reveal the heart of God. It must be supplemented by reconciliation. He who is the image of God must be His complement. The firstborn of creation must become the firstborn from among the dead. And that is Christ, our head. As such, our relationship to Him is nearer and dearer. We are not only subjects in the spiritual kingdom, but we also become and belong to a spiritual body, of which He is the head. God's grace and love must be revealed against the dark background of human hate. The head of the body is this sovereign, in whom all rule has its origin, and into whose kingdom we have been transported, the kingdom of the Son of His love. Our relation to Him as saints is not based on His power in creation, but on His victory over death. He is the first to emerge a conqueror from its dark shades, and thus He heads a new creation, a new race of mankind, which is not only given life, but immortality and incorruptibility beyond the reach of death. This death-defying vitality will be granted to all in Adam in due course, but at present He alone possesses it. This gives Him the exalted dignity of firstborn from among the dead. Some of this high honor He will share with us at His presence, for then His saints also will be vivified, while the balance of mankind must wait until the consummation. Universal dignities. The supremacy of God's Son depends on the universality or totality of His many dignities. How extraordinary is the emphasis laid on this vital fact in this short passage. Within the compass of 5 verses, we read no less than 8 times that the given glory is all-inclusive. He is the firstborn of every creature. All is created in Him, and all is created through and for Him. He is before all. All has its cohesion in Him. In all He is becoming first. The entire complement delights to dwell in Him. He reconciles all through the blood of His cross. Colossians 1:15-20. And on 2 occasions this is amplified and defined as all that is in the heavens or on the earth. It is said to include both visible and invisible. What more could be said to impress us with the universal scope of the Son's activities? That in all He may be becoming first. These precious words, as shown herewith in large blue letters in a golden frame, are the chief ornament of the room in which I write. Long years ago, I chose them as my motto and decided to display them in a prominent place in my abode. When erecting a new house, I evolved a plan so that they would become a permanent part of the building. Above the broad entrance into the drawing room was a board with a beautiful grain. On this I outlined these words in Old English lettering and varnished them before the wood was stained, so that they stood out plainly when all was done. But alas, when the home was sold, almost the first act of the new owner was to remove all traces of my cherished motto. And that is it, that in all He may be becoming first. I read this before, but I'm reading it again. Now that I can see when I'm reading through this, I must have read it in one of the volumes. But that's okay. I can share it twice. I can share it 3 times. I can share it multiple times. It's going to benefit those who are hearing it, That's what's important. It doesn't matter the repetitiveness of that. Think about the repetitiveness in the world. How long and drawn out it is. This here has a new life every time I read it. Every time I share it. It comes to life again and again and again and again. Even with more brilliance. Here we have a gem of purest ray serene, fit for the diadem of universal majesty. He was first in time, and he must become first in all else. How many of mankind have striven for supremacy? Some have drenched the ground with blood in order to attain the highest place for themselves among the rulers of the earth. Many more in other walks of life have sought to reach the top, above their less fortunate fellows. These all exalted themselves, finding a futile and a fleeting eminence. How marvelous the contrast! He who never sought his own advancement, but only God's glory, who abased himself beneath all, he will become first in all. Let us be very jealous for this glory, and allow no one else to filch it from him. Let us be very zealous for his supremacy, and accord it to no other name but his. And let us guard each glory as we would a treasure trove. And since his crowning glories as complement of the deity and reconciler of all are so often denied to him, let us make these the special theme of our meditation daily. And if need be, let us maintain them to defend them to the last. We are defenders of the faith, and this is what we defend. We defend the fact that Christ died, was entombed, and was roused the third day. This is our defense in the faith of Jesus Christ. God is completely equipped to consummate the purpose of love and bring every enemy back to his bosom, not only saved, but reconciled. The entire complement. It is quite possible to imagine that God would delegate the honor of creation to one mediator and that of reconciliation to another. God needs both to carry out his purpose so that each, in his measure, would contribute to the fulfillment of his plans. Then the honor of being God's complement would be shared by them. To put it figuratively, one would receive a place at his right hand and the other at his left. Indeed, some have thought that God's complement consisted of a whole series of beings, independent of his Son, to whom he delegated creation. Not so. The entire complement, all that is needed by God in order to fulfill his will in connection with his creatures, finds its fit residence in his Son. In him the complement delights to dwell. It is not alone that he has the ability, the fitness, and the competence to cope with all that is involved in this most marvelous function in the universe. All this he has, and far more. At his baptism, when the heavens were opened to him, the voice declared, "This is my Son, the beloved, in whom I delight." Matthew 3:17, Mark 1:11, and Luke 3:22. So again, when he was transformed on the high mountain, a voice came out of the cloud and testified to the delight of the Father in his beloved. Matthew 17:5, Mark 9:7. Peter reminds us of this in his epistle and tells us that it brought him honor and glory from God the Father. 2 Peter 1:17, long before Isaiah records the same fact. Matthew 12:18 and Isaiah 42:1, my beloved, in whom my soul delights. Is it not striking that this recognition of the Son is one of the very few statements directly spoken by the deity in the later scriptures? This should give it the prominence which it is due in our hearts. What a contrast to his testimony concerning the rest of mankind. When the Lord stooped down to see how they are, he found nothing in which to delight. Not one was even just or kind. Romans 3:10-18 and Psalm 14:2 and 3. Certainly there has never been among Adam's descendants, apart from his grace, in whom he could find pleasure. In none of them could the complement find any place whatsoever. The complement, or pleroma, is here personified. Colossians 1:19. It is represented as seeking a suitable dwelling place for which to carry out the purposes of God. In him it has found a delightful abode, for he is not merely a means of bringing back creation to what it was, but of bringing it on to fulfill its purpose. All too many of us imagine that we would be satisfied with a universe brought back to its pristine perfection, a world without sin, a sorrow-free existence. No such result would satisfy the heart of God. That would never justify the travail of the eons. That would never win the admiring approval of the universe. That would be vanity, a feeding on wind, a reaping of less than what was sown, a losing venture. And such would creation be, had it not been begun in the Son of his love, and should it not be finished by the same one through the blood of his cross. Love cannot be revealed without a background. Every blessing imaginable poured out into the lap of a sinless creature is merely a matter of course, which evokes no thankful feelings and provokes no response of love. I feel certain that Adam never thought of thanking his Maker for his superb health and strength. Yet I am profoundly grateful for the very little vigor needed to pen these lines or read these words, such as I am doing right now. I am thankful for that strength from God to be able to even do this channel and do these shows. This is given by God, the strength of God to do it. I wake up some mornings, and I am just hurting. I'm in pain in my head, and I don't want to do a show, but God brings it about. And God graciously grants it. And this is from him alone, through Christ, to be able to give it to you folks. And when we, who have suffered much from illness and weakness, once attain our body of glory, how deep and lasting will be our thankful love to him for all his superabundant grace. In this passage, nothing is said directly of the entrance of the court and course of evil and sin, because this is no part of the work of the Son. But the introduction of estrangement is clearly implied by his death and his cross and the necessity of the reconciliation of all. It is no glory or honor to destroy God's work. This must indeed be done, but woe to him who does it. His course must be down and not up. The glory of the Son lies in this, that he undoes the work of the adversary. Great as were his glories in creation, now that all has been estranged by sin, he gains far greater glory by his suffering for all, so that all will be saved and reconciled, and so attain the original object of their creation. God pity us if we see our salvation from our own side only. The object of all is God, rather than his creatures, and the glory of God demands the exaltation of his Son. These are the chief considerations in the reconciliation of all. If a single one of those whom he created in love should fail to find the final goal which his love has set, then it is his wisdom and power which are brought into question, and his love which is open to doubt. Likewise, if one who was created in the Son of God's love should fail to be reconciled by the blood of his cross, would that not drag the Son down from the high place which God has given him? Let us not darken the splendor of his achievement by our own dismal unbelief. This is getting better and better and better. I love it. Every time I share these words, they're a spectacular display of God's power and love in creation. So all that is occurring in the world right now is due to God's love, ultimately. He has to bring the creation the way he's bringing it. And what the events of the world right now, I speak it not of anything but absolute in that respect. I know the relative is there, the relative is horrible, in that respect right now in the world. But think about it. Is this not God's plan? To bring down those spiritual wicked forces to the lowest possible place in order to reconcile the human race. And this is what's going to happen. They will onslaught the earth. When we're out, they will be cast down to the earth for a 7-year period to onslaught humanity. This is what's happening. It's leading towards that. Okay, on another note, I got the camera equipment yesterday. We're so excited, Jacob and I. He's got to tweak it a bit and get it set up and make sure it's going to work and be able to do the editing, such as them things. You know, I do my shows on my phone, and I've done tons, over 700 shows now on this channel. On my phone, tablet, wherever, right? But now we have the equipment, thanks to our brethren who donated for that purpose. And you know who you are. That's all I have to say. I am thankful to God for this channel and the ability He's given me through affliction. I've suffered much affliction the last little while, but that's okay. That's purposeful for God, not myself. You know, He sustains me and keeps me by His grace, and His grace is sufficient. When He said that to Paul, when Paul had the splinter in the flesh, and he said, "My grace is sufficient for you," He meant it. It wasn't being removed. It was kept there to keep him low and humble. And this is why God does it to all of us who are members of the body. He keeps us low on purpose. We have a purposeful place here now to illuminate the evangel and give it out. So He needs to keep us low to do that. So yes, I'm thankful for the equipment. The camera equipment now is here. We can get it going. So grace and peace, my fellow believers, my brethren. I love you all. Have a wonderful Tuesday.